small cafe on a corner of a street with bright and beautiful, terrible things inside. Welcome to the Solstice Cafe. Do you really want to know about me and her? Really? It's my own stupid fault for bringing her up, I guess. But I had to start somewhere. Alright, I'll talk a little more about it. I can't tell you everything all at once, though. The story doesn't work like that. But I digress. One thing I noticed about Sarah, a couple of minutes after she left me on the day we met, was that I first met her, or rather saw her, smoking on the steps outside the cafe. Then when we were in the cafe, she told me that the cigarette I gave her was her first one ever. She conned me into giving her that cigarette. I liked that. I liked that she was quick-witted. I liked that she was smart enough to get one over on me. I mean, I don't like being played, but I do like someone who can get those little tricks in occasionally. One that doesn't harm anyone necessarily. But taking over the cafe left me in a bind. The thing is, I knew I was changing. I didn't necessarily know what I was changing into, but I knew I was going to change. The owners were kind of vague with it. All they told me was that I should expect to change both physically and mentally. It scared me at first. But the longer I spent in the cafe, the longer I worked there, the less scared I was. Still, though, I needed to take some time to process everything, so I asked her to leave me be for a little while. I tried not to be mean about it. I tried to make it clear that all it was me needing some mental space, you know? She was good about it at face value, at least. I mean, I don't know exactly what she was thinking, but I reckon she figured that I was being genuine. But I also knew that she probably wouldn't be happy about it. It's certainly no fun being left on a hook, but there's a time and place for all knowledge. I suppose in a selfish way, I almost hoped I would see her come in day after day to see me and to make amends. But I also knew I would have to seem mean and callous and cold. Not able to talk to her, having to avoid her, unable to find the words, and unable to tell the secrets. You have to understand, I never wanted to upset anyone. I never set out to make anyone feel bad, but I had no choice in the matter. My fate had been signed for and sealed in blood.
Why make the choice in the first place?
Look, with all due respect, I'll get to that in another session, okay?
Fine.
Where was I? Oh yeah. So, me and her agreed that we should take some time. Or rather, I convinced her that I should take some time to think things through. That was the worst part, I think, in the beginning. I had a few days before I took over the cafe, and a couple of dates with Sarah before I became the manager, and truth is, we really did hit it off. She actually made me less stressed while I mulled over the decision to take over the cafe. I wanted to kiss her so badly every time I saw her, but I never did. I kind of felt it would be terribly mean to. I mean, what if she liked kissing me? Then I'd either be somewhat bribing her into making the decision with me, or leaving her with a terrible memory of a chance cut short. And she was so goddamn pretty, so funny, so kind to me. That's why I felt like such a shit when I had to have space. I knew for a while that I would take over the cafe. I had no real choice in the matter when it came right down to it, and that is what broke my heart more than anything. Because I felt good about doing something so very wrong. I decided then, in the midst of the existential crisis, and in lieu of any other happinesses, to occupy myself instead with the cafe and with the regulars. In the weeks since I had taken over managing, some new faces had emerged. Partly, I think, because I started selling booze and smokes, after asking the owners, of course. Took a little while, of course. It was dead as a business for the first 2 weeks, since, well, no one actually knew about the cafe for a while. See, as it happened, the night I met Sarah was the first night of the new owners, and those new owners were looking for a new crowd, or so I was told, and as such they needed to advertise to that crowd. I had no idea how exactly they did that, but After 2 weeks, I did see a new type of crowd come into the cafe. They were interesting people. One of the first people I met was a man I would come to call a good friend. When he walked in, I had my back turned to the door since I was cleaning a cup, and suddenly I felt a shadow over my shoulder, and I heard a voice behind me.
Well, hello there, sir. How do you do?
His voice was like silk. It was somewhat odd, actually. He had this voice that made you want to agree with his every notion. I slowly turned around to see who the voice belonged to. He looked positively horrific. He was tall and slim, and his skin was cocaine white, and on his pale face he had these 2 deep scars running down from under his eyes to the corners of his lips, which branched off from the corners of his lips to the ears. 2 pillars and a big old smile. I didn't know this at the time, but I do now, that he always paints over the scars with black paint. And so, because of this, he always looks like the Crow as imagined by Edgar Allan Poe and H.P. Lovecraft while stoned as all hell. He wore a fine and tailored black pinstripe suit with a cream Panama hat and black leather gloves, and was always smoking and would never allow himself to be in the cafe without an ice-cold beer in his hand. Sorry, I spaced out there, I said, shaking my head. The name is Dane, and may I welcome you to the new and improved Solstice Cafe. What can I get for you, my friend?
Do you have any beer, Dean?
Again, his voice. Even if we had no beer, I'd have told him we had some. Fuck, I'd have run out and bought some just for him. I swear that he could convince most anyone of anything. Yes, we do, I said finally.
Then I shall take one of these fine beverages, sir.
I went to the fridge and got out a bottle of ice-cold beer and handed it to the man after opening it. Christ, the way he said beer and beverage, it was almost flirting.
Thank you kindly, my friend.
It's, no problem.
Oh, I almost forgot. The name's Phibes. Phibes Noir.
He outstretched his hand and I shook it softly, somewhat out of the world. I still trip over my words thinking about him now. It's nice to meet you, Mr. Noir.
Please.
He said nonchalantly.
Call me Phibes.
I must have looked ridiculous to him. I stood with wide eyes, was very conscious of my mouth being slightly open. As I said, he was positively horrific at first glance, but my God, something about him was sexy. I mean, I cared about Sarah a great deal, and I felt strongly about her. But God, had he asked, I'd have jumped him on the counter right there and then. He sat at the bar for a little while and drank his beer while examining the place, his eyes scanning the room slowly.
It's a nice place you got here.
Thanks, I said. The cafe had gone through some aesthetic changes. The linoleum floor was replaced with a tiled floor. The old and slightly ratty red faux leather booths were replaced with new mahogany and real black leather booths. The old and vandalized tables had been replaced. The counter was no longer plastic and plexiglass. It was rich wood with a nice brass trim and a well-stocked bar behind it, as well as a new counter for the tea and coffee making facilities, and a beautiful new furnished kitchen behind the counter and bar area.
You know, I might make this my regular place. You ran this way for long?
No, it's actually my first day with a customer, to be honest.
Well, hopefully it'll go well.
I hope so. Just waiting to see if any more folk arrive is all.
Oh, well, I'm sure there'll be more here soon.
Hopefully, I replied, reaching for the fridge and grabbing myself a beer. Honestly, he overwhelmed me a little bit. Enough to need a drink, at least.
Do you, mind if I smoke here?
No, go right ahead, I replied.
Do you smoke, Dean?
I do.
Then, would you like a cigarette?
If you don't mind. Phibes then handed me a cigarette, and we both sparked up and took deep draws. Watching him take a draw was so odd. I mean, I've seen literally hundreds of people smoke, but no one smoked like Phibes. More to the point, it was everything he did. Every action. Taking a drink, smiling, getting up to move, handing over money. Every action he made seem as if all the world's euphoria could be found in that one little action. Honestly, I kind of wished I was the filter of a cigarette. I mean, it took actual effort not to lean into him. Phibes then broke me out of this state as he took out 2 guns and placed them down on the counter. Oh shit! Look. We don't have much in the till, but you just take what you want. Phibes looked confused.
Wait, oh, yeah, no, I ain't robbing no man. I mean, I do rob people from time to time, but no, not you, not this place. I like you.
So, I started backing away slowly from the counter. You're not going to shoot me?
Not if you give me a reason to. A bullet saved is a bullet earned, after all.
Fair enough. In the grand scheme of things, Phibes presenting guns would become one of the more common going-ons in the cafe.
You like 'em?
He asked. Well, they kind of scare the shit out of me up close, but I do like them. What are they?
These are my babies. They are 1864 Wells Fargo 10-gauge stagecoach shotguns, the original sawn-offs. Perfect for warding off bandits or blowing a hand-sized hole in anybody who crosses your path.
Nice. Where did you pick those up?
Oh, a friend gave them to me many years ago. I kept them ever since. Never know when you're gonna need a shotgun or 2.
Should I have a shotgun?
Probably. I mean, I recommend everyone has a shotgun. At least, everyone not trying to shoot me, that is.
Yeah, fair point. Suddenly, as we spoke, the door to the cafe opened and an old man shuffled in. Hello there, welcome to the new and improved Solstice Cafe. My name is Dane. Can I take your order?
Hello there, young man. I would like a black coffee and a fruit scone, please, and thank you.
Well, coming right up, sir. Please take a seat wherever you like. The old man nodded and shuffled towards a table in the centre row of the cafe and sat down. He was well dressed. Black wool overcoat, black suit with thick rimmed glasses and white slicked back thin hair and a greying goatee. He took out a small leather-bound book and began reading as I made his coffee and had the kitchen bake up a fresh batch of scones. The perks of the new owners was, an efficient kitchen. In a few moments they were both ready and I took them over to the table and placed them down. He thanked me and carried on reading.
You still pouring out of that old dusty book?
The old man looked up and fixed his glasses.
Phibes, old boy, is that you?
It is indeed, old-timer. How you been keeping?
I am well, thank you. Closer now than ever in my studies.
Good to hear, good to hear. How close you suppose you are?
Well, I'm hoping to find your counterpart soon.
That's enough, old-timer. Young Dean here doesn't know about that.
Oh, yes, I suppose he doesn't.
Phibes and the old man had looked at each other knowingly as I played around at the counter and smoked. I minded slightly, I suppose. People always feel bad when they're left out the loop, but I figured that if it wasn't my business, it should probably stay that way.
I digress,
Said Phibes as he turned back to me.
We may seem to be in a questionable people, but, well, ain't wise to question it, okay, my friend?
Look, I began. My job here is to serve drinks and food and protect this cafe. That's it. If you want to talk about anything to me, it's your choice whether to or not. Phibes smiled.
Then we will make good friends.
We sat there, the three of us, talking for a while, as more and more odd folk shuffled in and placed orders before sitting down. A few of them were slightly weird, odd features and such, but I was too busy to notice. I felt rushed off my feet until a set of waiters emerged from the black office. I'd never seen them before in my life, and they appeared out of thin air, but I thought to myself, fuck it, I'm too busy to care, I'll take the help. I mean, yeah, I had many adventures at the cafe, but after all, I was still kind of just a waiter. Suddenly there were meals and drinks flying out the kitchen and many happy customers. We had nearly a full house at 24 with only one seat left directly at the bar. And then in walked the stupidest person on the planet. Now, over the years, I have had all sorts of folk walk into the cafe. But this guy, holy fuck, he was the stupidest. He wasn't to know, of course, but The minute he stepped through that door, he had no chance. He was around 30, I'd say, wore a black hoodie and black tracksuit bottoms and had his face covered by a balaclava. He walked right up to the counter with a strong stride and pulled a gun on me. He looked right at me and yelled,
"Alright, give me the fucking money!"
I froze up, not knowing what to do. This was, after all, the second time someone had pulled a gun on me that day.
And who the hell are you?
Asked Phibes.
"Fuck off, mate!
The man yelled as he turned the gun to Phibes.
I'll fucking blow you away, I swear to fucking God!"
No, you won't, sir. What you will do is focus solely on me. Am I right?
I will!
He yelled angrily. The man had a gun, a small 9mm pistol to Phibes' head as he stared into his eyes.
Now, what's your name?
Phibes asked.
It's Mark Dane.
The robber replied with a voice as if he was fighting the very idea of talking.
Good.
Why did you care?
Because I'm gonna kill you, Mark. I like the names of people I kill.
I was slightly taken back, but some part of me that I didn't understand and that I didn't want to understand told me to let it happen. Told me it was good to let whatever was going to happen happen.
You gonna kill me?
I am, Mr. Dane. Now, firstly, hand me your gun.
Mark handed over the gun.
Now, would you like that standing or on your knees?
Standing.
A cigarette?
Yes, please.
I didn't know whether or not to feel sickened or impressed. But it seemed that the more he spoke to Phibes, the more willing the robber, Mark, was to go along and agree with everything. Phibes was about to blow a hole in his head, and Mark didn't feel the least bit upset. In fact, as Phibes leaned over and gently lit Mark's cigarette, Mark smiled. A genuine smile. The smile of seeing an old friend on a beautiful day, and all of that was for a bullet in the head. I thought I should speak up, suggest mercy, but for some reason, I knew I shouldn't. I knew I couldn't. And to this day, I know that I didn't.
Alrighty then, Mark. Do you have any last words?
Yeah. I'm not sorry for anything. Except being caught.
Fair enough.
Phibes pulled the triggers. Phibes emptied both barrels of both guns straight into the prone head of the robber, sending him to the ground without any grace and painting the floor with a thick black and red splatter. Phibes blew smoke from the barrels and then placed them back into his holsters. "Holy fuck! You shot him!" I said shakily.
I did. I shot a robber in the head who, firstly, threatened you and subsequently all of us, and secondly, who admitted to not feeling any guilt. Sue me.
I was confused for a second, shaken and confused and panicked until I felt a sickening warmth in my mind. A demonic, beautiful voice that said, "He's right, you know. I'm not a violent man." But for some reason, I knew with utter certainty that in the same position, if I had had a gun, I would have shot him too. Like I already knew how to do it. We looked at the corpse for a second before the cafe goers went back to their conversations and food. Phibes, is that how quick a life can end? I asked. Phibes looked at me, dead in the eyes as he spoke.
Look, Dean, there's something you need to educate now. This new world you're in is amazing. You're gonna meet all sorts of folks. Have all sorts of amazing adventures. Accomplish so much more than you ever realize. When that happens, I'll be there smiling right along with you and laughing and enjoying it. Who knows this? In this world, a life lasts only as long as a guy like me allows.
And that's the truth of it. Phibes Noir, from the moment I met him, was simply the blackest of all roses. Episode 2 of the Solstice Cafe, written by the Lone Walker 1 and by Matthew Duggan. The songs were Mesmerize by Kevin MacLeod of Incompetech.com. The other song was Anamalie, again by Kevin MacLeod of Incompetech.com. The voice of Dean was the Lone Walker 1. The voice of the old man was the Lone Walker 1. The voice of Mark Dane was the Lone Walker 1. The voice of the interviewer was Matthew Duggan. The voice of Phibes Noir was Matthew Duggan. We hope you will stop by again for another visit to the Solstice Cafe.